This is every aircraft that fought in the skies over Kashmir in 1947. Fighters, bombers, transports, trainers, and liaison planes. Some barely ready, some battle-tested, some never meant for war. The Hawker Tempest II became the Royal Pakistan Air Force's primary combat aircraft at partition. Fast and heavily armed, it was designed for ground attack and fighter-bomber roles. Pakistan received a limited number, but they represented the strongest offensive capability available. The Tempest II demanded skilled pilots and constant maintenance. It proved Pakistan could field legitimate combat power, even with minimal resources and infrastructure still under construction. The Hawker Typhoon arrived as Pakistan's fighter component, a proven ground attack aircraft from World War II. Built for low-level strikes, it carried rockets and bombs effectively. The Typhoon was robust, but maintenance-intensive, challenging for a newly formed air force with limited technical support. Despite these difficulties, it provided Pakistan with credible ground support capability. The Typhoon showed that determination could stretch limited assets far beyond their expected operational lifespan. The Handley Halifax was Pakistan's heavy bomber, a four-engine giant tasked with impossible missions. During the Skardu siege, Halifaxes flew nighttime supply drops over treacherous mountain terrain, delivering ammunition and food to isolated garrisons. These missions were dangerous, flown by crews with minimal navigation equipment and no room for error. The Halifax demonstrated that Pakistan's Air Force would take extraordinary risks to support ground forces, regardless of aircraft age or operational limitations. The Douglas C-47 Dakota became Pakistan's logistical backbone, transporting troops and supplies across challenging terrain. Reliable and versatile, the Dakota operated from improvised airstrips, moving critical resources to frontline positions. Pakistan's Dakotas faced constant demand with insufficient numbers and limited spare parts. Crews flew beyond safe operational limits to maintain supply lines. The Dakota proved that airlift capability, even when stretched dangerously thin, could sustain military operations in mountainous territory where ground transport failed completely. The North American Harvard served as Pakistan's primary trainer aircraft, responsible for producing combat-ready pilots at an accelerated pace. Originally designed for basic flight training, Harvards worked overtime as Pakistan rapidly expanded its pilot roster. The aircraft was forgiving and reliable, essential qualities when training inexperienced aviators during wartime urgency. The Harvard represented foundation building, creating the human infrastructure necessary to operate combat aircraft. It showed that air power required training capacity, not just frontline machines. The de Havilland Tiger Moth was Pakistan's biplane trainer, an aircraft from another era pressed into service for basic instruction. Open cockpit, fabric construction, and simple controls made it ideal for initial flight training. The Tiger Moth operated from rough fields with minimal support requirements, perfectly suited for a resource-constrained air force. Despite its antiquated design, it fulfilled a critical role. The Tiger Moth proved that even obsolete aircraft contributed meaningfully when assigned appropriate missions. The Auster served as Pakistan's liaison and observation aircraft, providing reconnaissance and artillery spotting capabilities. Small, slow, and unarmed, the Auster operated close to ground forces, relaying critical battlefield information. Its short takeoff capability allowed operations from forward positions where larger aircraft couldn't function. The Auster was vulnerable but essential, filling roles that no other aircraft could. It demonstrated that air power encompassed more than fighters and bombers. Observation and communication mattered equally in Kashmir's complex terrain. The Douglas C-47 Dakota became the backbone of India's Kashmir intervention, executing the critical airlift to Srinagar that changed everything. On October 27, 1947, Dakotas transported troops directly into the conflict zone, establishing immediate military presence. India operated significantly more Dakotas than Pakistan, enabling sustained large-scale airlift operations. The aircraft flew constantly, moving soldiers, equipment, and supplies into Poonch and Srinagar. The Dakota demonstrated that strategic mobility could compensate for ground access limitations, turning airlift capacity into decisive operational advantage. The Supermarine Spitfire brought legendary status and ground attack capability to Indian operations. Originally designed as a fighter, India's Spitfires conducted reconnaissance and ground strike missions over Kashmir. Fast and maneuverable, they provided air superiority that Pakistan couldn't challenge effectively. The Spitfire represented technological edge and combat experience from World War II. Its presence alone influenced tactical decisions on both sides. The Spitfire showed that iconic aircraft carried psychological weight beyond their immediate combat contributions, projecting power through reputation. The Hawker Tempest II gave India powerful ground attack capacity identical to Pakistan's primary fighter bomber. India operated more Tempests with better maintenance infrastructure and supply chains. Used for striking ground positions and providing close air support, the Tempest II proved effective in Kashmir's mountainous environment. Its heavy armament could devastate targets when weather permitted operations. The Tempest II demonstrated that matching aircraft types mattered less than operational numbers and logistical sustainability. India's advantage lay in depth, not technology. The Bristol Blenheim served limited bomber roles for India, an older twin-engine aircraft by 1947 standards. Originally designed as a light bomber, Blenheims saw restricted use during the Kashmir conflict. They represented outdated capability retained from World War II stocks. The Blenheim's operational impact remained minimal compared to transport and fighter aircraft. Its inclusion in India's inventory showed that air forces retained all available assets during expansion periods, even when newer types existed. Not every aircraft changed outcomes. The Westland Lysander operated in liaison and Army cooperation roles for India, designed specifically for observation and communication. Slow and highly maneuverable, the Lysander excelled at short field operations and close coordination with ground forces. It could land in confined spaces, making it valuable for forward deployments. The Lysander represented specialized capability for tactical support rather than combat power. It demonstrated that effective air operations required diverse aircraft types, each fulfilling specific functions that fighters and bombers couldn't perform.